Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the Zeus stuff. I don't know how much you guys know about the Zeus stuff, but I'm just going to run you through a few things that's going on right now. Zeus is swapping teams with Doran, right? Zeus is going to Humble Life, Doran is going to T1. There's a lot more to the story, apparently, than we know and than we heard. Take this all with a grain of salt, I guess is the best way to say this. Zeus and Keen's agents allegedly, this is not confirmed, this is all rumored, worked together illegally to screw over T1. As far as I know, none of this is verified and should be considered a rumor at this point. Interesting to see what this is true. So basically what happened. Zeus and Keen are managed by different agencies, but only on paper, the same route implied collusion. T1 had a verbal agreement to sign Zeus. They agreed verbally, we're going to sign you. But the agency bluffed and they asked T1 for an insane amount of money to buy time. T1 asked this agency to let them know what their intentions are before Keen resigns, so T1 can grab Keen if they can't get Zeus, understandable. This agency ghosted T1 until after Keen re-signed to Gen G, so they're using like a strong arm leverage. While Keen's gone now, you gotta pay us the big bucks. When negotiations began on 19th of November, T1 had the intention of spending even more to keep Zeus. The agency told T1 that Humble Life offered around $400,000 more and then ghosted T1. After being mental boomed by this series of actions and being ghosted and stuff, T1 just said fuck it. They contacted Doran and they signed him. Because I think T1 thought, okay, this guy's fucking with us really hard right now. If he's trying to milk us for shit tons of money, we need a top laner now. It says not even 400,000 and you'll say only 400,000. Obviously 400,000 is a lot of money, right? But this 400,000 contextualizing 3 million to 2.6 million, it's not as big of a deal when it comes to like, I don't know what T1 offers when it comes to merchandise and shit. The big drama is that T1 feel really fucked over. So T1 wanted to retain ZOFGK. To keep ZOFGK branding, they were ready to give the players whatever they wanted, which makes sense because Zeus's agent walked a fine line between legal and illegal to fuck over T1, and T1 is mental boomed. T1 is digging to find whatever they can to serve them papers. T1 is enraged and are in vengeance mode. They're contacting TV stations to find out whatever they can do to sue these guys. T1 intended to brand around ZOFGK. Again, this is all rumors. Don't take this with like this is a verified source. Basically, it makes sense that T1 would want to keep ZOFGK because of all of their merch, all of their branding, all of their everything is all ZOFGK related. T1 had a verbal agreement and was finalizing the signing him, but that and plan B, plan C all failed. T1 has lost their ZOFGK branding. They've cancelled their merch. They have nothing left to lose, and they're on a bloodthirsty crusade against Zeus' agency. Apparently, someone heard the T1 CEO shout and swear on his name that he will never forgive them. And if that was really all they did, T1 wouldn't be on this crusade. There's something even more fucked up going on. There's a few posts on the Reddit that I saw that are related to this topic, mainly to do with the merch, right? Like the T1 office was on until 3 a.m. with the content and PR teams were there. There was notices that they're canceling products, they're refunding orders. And I think that obviously, T1 wanted to re-sign Zeus, and now they have to go through all this shit to like change all their branding and remove lots of things from their shops. And a lot of things are on like hold now. So T1 still gives a chance to refund a lot of the topics. So there's a lot of drama right now. And I think all of these sources are coming from FM Korea. I'm not sure if that's correct. I take that with a grain of salt as well, because I see a lot of these are on FM Korea. T1's going to sue the player agent. Zeus agent's getting sued. There's a lot of drama going on. I'm just trying to be the messenger here for the drama. But that's basically what it is. The Zeus's agent is owned by Lico Esports, whatever, who Keen is also working with. So it's kind of weird, by the sounds of it, to have Keen and Zeus with different agents on paper, but they're technically working with the same agent. Having the same agent represent two of the best top laners in the same league is dangerous, because you can kind of control whatever you want to do, because they're a parent company, right? So it sounds like the agent was really hardballing T1 and putting them on hard, like, we need this now. And he wasn't giving them any room to work with. And he just like, boom. There was a 20-minute time window from when Zeus signed. Here it is. Zeus accepted an offer from somewhere other than T1 at 3:40 p.m. T1 arrived at the negotiation site at 4 p.m., but Zeus had already contracted. So apparently they were 20 minutes late to getting Zeus what he wanted, because I think T1 really wanted to give everything. They were 1 hour late apparently. T1 really wanted to give everything they could to get Zeus, obviously, because you can see all the drama and stuff that they have to go through by not having them. I think Rival did a video where he does a quick rundown. He's going to explain a lot of stuff. Shout out to Rival. Let's listen to what he said about the whole thing. Maybe he has more sources.
On Twitter, and I had to do a double take because I was like, holy shit, there's no way. Upon closer inspection, I realized...
So he's going to... The Zeus controversy, basically, he's re-signed, and we're going to go through the controversy of...
The community was in shock, and this news didn't come without controversy. Now, obviously, there's no actual sources available. There's no spokesperson from T1 or anything just yet because this is so early.
I think he might say a lot of things that I said, but
and potentially even
he's probably done more
so
research.
Take it with a grain of salt. But I'm going to try and cross-reference the rumors floating around about this. I also want to preface that because they're about to be mentioned a lot, it's meant to be
Why is he
said,
using a spoon
again,
for a mic?
Not confirmed, but Zeus's agent is owned by Lico Sports, who also work with Keen. This will come into play later. They have different individual people as representatives, but the actual agency is apparently the same, thus providing a mutual interest and leverage in certain negotiation situations.
It's not uncommon, but representing two players with the same agent or agency in the same role, in the same league, at the same caliber is like a dangerous game.
So firstly, let's look at the Naver article because it's Korean sourced. In these statements, it says that following their Worlds victory, T1 initiated contract discussions with each player led by T1 CEO Ahn Woon-gi and director Jong Hoi-yoon. Carrier's renewal was finalized first, shortly followed by owner and Gumayusi. And to segue before I begin recounting, what I think makes this a really specific roster situation is obviously the fanbase's ties to the ZOFGK brand. Firstly, it looks a lot cooler than DOFGK, and if you're confused by that acronym, make sure to keep watching. But secondly, the marketing surrounding the World's journeys of this roster over the last 3 years was incredible.
Like I think you have to understand, like the marketing of ZOFGK is crazy. Like the amount of merchant stuff that they can make, and the amount of money that they can make, and the sales they can make, and like the awesome styles that they can make with the 5 stars and the ZOFGK brand. It's so valuable.
And really tied the players and fans together with a sense of unity. At this point, T1 is almost more ZOFGK than it is T1. From the lows of being reverse swept by DRX in 2022 to the highs of rinsing 2023 and the underdog tale of a 4th seed winning it all in 2024, there isn't much T1 hasn't seen lately. And this is all while being tied in with the legacy of Faker, the greatest esport athlete to ever live. So to break this roster is so much more than just a simple roster change. The statement goes on saying the T1 fans strongly voiced their desire to retain ZOFGK.
Understandably.
Despite the momentum from fans, negotiations with Zeus and specifically his management faced significant hurdles. T1 reported 3 proposals, with the last offer including a slight salary increase and a 3+1 year contract term, really highlighting the organization's commitment to a long-term
3+1 year is a long time. I mean, he's quite a young player, so it makes sense to offer him that.
With Zeus. This point also ties into something else I'm about to share, but I'll get to that after this statement. We have lots.
That is a long contract.
However, disagreements
can be bad as well, though.
over salary and contract duration.
So as a player, the bad thing for signing 3+1 is dangerous because that's essentially could be like a 4-year contract. And what you really want to do, and what the agent did, which I think is very normal, is you check your market value and you try to trial that against the team that you're with. If you sign for 3 years, right, with a +1, you're basically locked in forever. Well, for your career. 4 years is a long time. Whereas if you're locked in for 1 year and you're on, like, let's say you're locked in for 1 year and you're being, signed for $1 million, then next year you play really well and then you get offers from teams for like 3 million, 4 million. You can go to your team and be like, guys, I'm being offered 4 times what you're paying me. You explore your market value and then you get a better contract the next year, right? If you're locked in for 4 years, you can never explore that market value, so you can't leverage other offers and figure out how much you're really worth.
It goes on to say, when Zeus's contract ended and he entered free agency, he received multiple competitive offers from many teams. A final meeting was planned on the morning of the 19th, but was postponed due to a request from Zeus's representative. According to that representative, quote, that meeting that morning was never officially confirmed. We had only intended to communicate at that time. We submitted our final proposal to T1, but there was no positive feedback. T1 made significant efforts to bridge the gap. The difference in contract duration remained unresolved, however. T1 proposed a 1 year or...
If you're not sure where he's reading from, he's around here. This area, if you want to follow along with what he's reading.
Or 1+1 year term, but Zeus's team held firm at 2 years. After the representative's 3 PM deadline passed without resolution, Zeus accepted an offer with another team. In the next slide, it says that even with division and the meeting postponed, negotiations continued through other forms of communication and T1 sought to communicate with Zeus directly. T1 continued to narrow down contract differences, but a decision was made before the differences were dissolved. Zeus's agent said, quote, in the initial negotiations, we never made a counter-offer regarding the annual salary. The amount initially proposed by T1 was a condition that we could not accept, and although we ended up receiving a slightly increased amount than this year's annual salary right before free agency, we continuously conveyed to T1 from the beginning that we would not negotiate further, but we would receive a market evaluation.
Very valid. Zeus is probably the best top player in the world. Branding is insane. The leverage that the agent has is, we know we have the best top. We know he's playing fucking well. We know he's insanely young and has an insane career, and we know you need him. We're not going to accept this small amount of money increase. We're going to wait to see how much other teams offer, and then we'll come back to you. That's kind of valid. That's really normal. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
They continued, "We told T1 that the deadline for this offer was 3 p.m. and eventually waited until T1's response
They are giving them really tight deadlines, though. Jesus.
at 3:40 p.m. The money amount was similar, but there was still a difference in contract duration. T1's perception of events reads, quote, "Even though we were unilaterally informed of a 3 p.m. deadline, we rushed to Incheon to continue negotiations," which is where Zeus lived, and they wanted to meet him in person. But we received a rejection from the agent. The closing paragraph reads, "Eventually Zeus accepted an offer from somewhere other than T1 after 3:40 p.m. Perhaps it was he was reluctant to accept a 1-year offer. T1 arrived at the negotiation site after 4 p.m, but the deadline was passed and Zeus had already accepted another offer."
So they were late. They were told 3 p.m. they couldn't come with something, so they said they got ghosted, and then in those 40-minute time period, they found an offer from Hammerlife that was just unbeatable, apparently. But I think T1, correct me if I'm wrong, came back 20 minutes after Zeus had signed with this insane deal, and they actually had decent money to put up to get him back. They were going to go all in to get him, I think.
According to a commenter under the post, which links back to what I said before, Zeus and Keen are represented by the same agency and adds to the situation. The commenter says, "Rumors. They let Keen re-sign in the morning, and because Keen was off the market, it meant they could charge way more for Zeus, as obviously the demand for a good top laner just went up."
Exactly. So like my value as Zeus is insanely high, but my value gets even higher if other top laners have already signed as well, right? You have even less options and you need me even more. So the agent is just trying to arm wrestle them so hard into getting as much as he can.
Quote, "This actually matches why Zeus' side didn't show up for the morning meeting. T1 is really angry. They describe this as a, quote, grey area in the law." I'm again going to reiterate, all of this is information through translation, multiple sources that vary in levels of credibility. These are just what's found flying around on Korean forums and outlets, so take it with a grain of salt. Directly following Zeus' departure post on T1 LOL, the signing of Doran was announced, another very high-profile top laner, but with mixed reception to say the least.
And they're scared of Bin getting
What
jacked.
is this?
Okay, dude.
What?
What the fuck was that?
Most of what I just spoke about also cross-checks with this translated excerpt from an interview on FM Korea. I wanted to summarize this, but because it's a translation, I think it's important I don't, so I'm just going to dictate it. You can pause and read it if you'd like to, but I'll just read it out for you. T1 had a finalized verbal agreement, but the agent delayed things, saying they'd match T1's maximum offer and would let me know before finalizing the individual contract. However, instead of proceeding, the agent stalled to make more money, saying negotiations should resume on the 19th when Zeus enters free agency.
I'll read it so you can read along with me. The agent stalled to make more money, saying that the negotiations should resume on the 19th during free agency. This delay raised suspicions, especially when Hanwha offered a slightly harder deal, less than 500 million Korean won difference. During this time, T1, after staying quiet, reconnected with Hanwha, and it became known that the agent had been in contact with them. Ultimately, Doran's agent was called and a quick agreement call sign was made. I'm not sure how much of this will appear in the media, but T1 initially aimed to rebrand with Faker as the central figure, meeting the players' designed conditions and signing multi-year contracts. So basically what that's saying is T1's idea of the future branding of T1 was we keep ZOFGK together forever with Faker as the prime one, and when Faker's not the central figure anymore and he decides to step down or whatever, the ZOGK is the new branding. You know, that's the consistent factor of T1. That's like their next jump in their long-term vision of T1. Wu Jay's agent had been operating in a very grey area illegally, creating a mess for everyone. I don't know what they're referring to when they say grey area illegally. If someone has like information on that, then yeah. By the sounds of it, from what I understand right now, he was just playing really fucking hard game with them. Oh, in a very grey area legally. Yeah, exactly. So not illegally or legally. When it says very grey area illegally, I wonder what they mean. I think he's just really... I'm sure there's some loopholes that he's going through or some shit. T1 now plans to gather evidence of these illegal activities and send a formal notice of proof. Currently, T1's financial situation seems complicated. The branding around Faker has taken a hit and merchandise plans are being cancelled. There's even a talk of blocking the agent. Has been very vocal, shouting that they won't tolerate the situation. It's clear that it will become a very contentious issue. So T1, I think, obviously, like, lost so much money from the content side. You think of merchandising as one thing, but also they signed big deals with brands with the ZOFGK brand, right? Like, they did a big deal with some... I don't know if it's makeup company or some shit, or like lip balm company. What is it called? Lanigier or whatever the fuck. I think that was very ZOFGK branding based, you know. Will they that retain if it's not ZOFGK? I don't know. How much value is the ZOFGK brand? I think is the problem that T1 are having now when it comes to like making money, right? Rather than blocking these things outright, I wish the agent had acted with more care. They scrapped the original plans and sought market evaluations, which is fair enough, I think. But they didn't place a competitive bid or finalize the deal. Now the same unresolved problems remain. T1 is trying to build a case, cancel the contracts, and distance themselves from the agent. Despite being a different company, the agent seems to be causing issues across the board. T1 intends to reveal these problems to the public, likely resulting in news coverage and serious legal consequences. T1 originally planned to make Faker the central figure of their rebranding while meeting the players' sign conditions and contract terms. They verbally agreed and worked out most details, including maximizing their offer and getting player approval. However, plans B and C fell apart, causing internal chaos among the T1 staff. Okay, I just read it out for you, so I'll just skip the part where he stops reading.
If you want to check it out yourself, if you can read Korean, because I can't. I also found this, which was a removed
we went through
post
this.
from lol.
It sounds like there's a lot of articles and like sources and like comments coming out. None of them are verified, but they all kind of cover the same thing, right? There's a lot of repetitiveness here. We went through this already with the T1 intending to brand around ZOFGK to be the successor of Faker. They had verbal agreements with Zeus. They've lost their branding and merchandise. The T1 CEO COO was really pissed, and they're basically sorting legal action. That's the TLDR of what's going on. Verbal agreements, though, are not, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm pretty sure verbal agreements have no enforcement in law. Verbal agreements have no state in like court or whatever the fuck. You can't really, it's not binding and shit like that. So I guess that's what they define as gray area. Do you think that's what they're defining as gray area? Depends on the country, they can be. Oh, I see. So I think that's what they're referring to when it comes to legal gray areas. You know, you make a verbal agreement and you break it. That's probably where this stems from. But yeah, there's a lot of weird shit going on. I think the agent was just playing really hard. Managing the same players is also really, really questionable for like conflict of interest. It sounds like the agency was not treating T1 very well. You know, if this is like, I would love to hear, and I don't think we'll ever hear what Zeus's POV was. Zeus didn't have any say in all of this, or did he have say, you know? Did Zeus want to stay with T1? I imagine he did, you know? But obviously the agent was working in Zeus's best interest, being like, I will get you a lot more money if you can just test your market value. But the second he tested his market value, the agent just sent him straight to Humble Life. Then the last thing we have is Zeus put an Instagram post out. I already read this, and the first translation is not the best, so there's a second one. Yes, this is Zeus's words on his Instagram. Yesterday's free agent announcement was earlier than I thought. I apologize for not being able to greet you properly without my help. I came in as a trainee at 19, and I was really lucky to be able to play with my good brothers until this year. I was so happy to be able to play with them, and Hyunjun, who has been through everything with me since I was a trainee, and Sanghyuk, which is Faker, I think, who always gave me a lot to learn from, and Minyoung, who always gave me positive energy, and Min Sok, who always helped me feel comfortable in the game. Thank you to all of you and the team for believing in me and giving me the chance. It's been an honor to be a part of T1, and I received so much love. I'm so sorry that I had to leave so abruptly. Even for me, it doesn't really sink in yet. That's a really interesting line. And I'm sure the fans are surprised, and I'm sorry for that. I'm so grateful to my manager and coach, Ungi, for always taking care of me, and to the coaches for always believing in me and letting me learn so much. As I learned so many things in T1, I will always try to learn what I lack and become a better player, even if I go to another team. Thank you for reading this article. I think this was obviously PR tweaked, right? I don't think Zeus's agent would let him say his full thoughts, whatever that is, publicly. But you can see like inklings of his comments here. I'm so sorry that I had to leave so abruptly. Even for me, it doesn't sink in yet. I don't think that, I don't know. It's a weird situation. We'll see what the outcome is. It said that T1 was going to go public at one point. I'm not sure if this translation is perfectly good. Apparently Gumayushi commented. What was Gumayushi's comment? Gumayushi and owner have commented. They said, let's get married next year. What? That's got to be a mistranslation, right? Let's get married next year. What the fuck? Ruler put a crying emoji. Owner said fighting. Apparently, Guma said, we will punish you next year. Jesus Christ, Guma. He said he'd crush him. Okay, well, that's much different than getting married to him. Yeah, I think this is a surprise to everyone. The Zeus signing to Humble Life. I think Zeus is making more money than when he was made of T1. He's got an insanely competitive roster. And obviously T1 are weakened now in general, because ZOFGK was such a core part to them. So Zeus overall on paper is fine, I think, with the deal. It's just, I think that, I wonder if he wanted to stay in T1. I think T1 is not happy with this at all. They've lost like the heart. Not that Zeus was the heart, but ZOFGK was like the heart of T1, and that's gone now. It's now DOFGK. So I hope for T1's sake that Doran pops off. I hope for Doran's sake that he pops off. But yeah, it sounds like T1 has taken this very poorly, understandably. And I think the internal staff, like it says, was working till 3 a.m. on content and PR to try and figure out how to fix this. So that's the drama around Zeus. That's what's going on, and I'll keep you guys updated if there's anything else.